From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
These Mesa High School students are following a national movement after Florida's mass shooting, how they hope to make a difference.
This body refuses to even discuss it. I don't know how folks sleep at night.
Plus, harsh words after the Arizona House refuses to take up a single bill on gun reform, instead discussing video games and abortion.
And shanking your shot isn't only a misfortune for you, but for divers who must retrieve the ball as well. How some lost golf balls are getting a second life.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Adriana de Alba.
And I'm Troy Lynch. Thank you for joining us. Students at Mesa High School walked out of school at noon today to protest better gun control regulations. That's after the shooting in Parkland, Florida that left 17 dead. Reporter Amanda Slee walked with students as they talked about school safety and gun reform.
It was a whole community coming together. It's not just there were other parents out here lining up watching us. It's not just the kids. It's not just kids ditching school. We're actually here together.
Hundreds of these high school students walked out of class and headed to a nearby park to take a stand against shootings happening on school campuses and to advocate for safety.
We have Mesa PD, we have fences, and there hasn't been a school shooting. I believe that we should do that for every school around the country.
Yeah, you have that sense of, hey, could this be my last day? But in the general sense, everyone feels pretty safe. Everyone feels pretty, pretty okay.
Students gathered around as fellow classmates stood up to speak and hold up signs. Mesa High School's principal, Kirk Thomas, sent an email to parents saying he asked faculty to discourage students from leaving, but was working with Mesa Police to ensure student safety.
Today will be treated like any other day. It's not supported by the district, but if they happen to get a parent that calls in and excuses them for what they've done, for this, not what they've done, for being absent, I'm confident that the district will treat this just like any other absence.
The walkout ended after about 20 minutes. Students sang their school song, Carry On. We'll fight forever. In Mesa, Amanda Slee, Cronkite News.
Walkouts are planned for March 14th on the 1-month anniversary of the Parkland shooting and on April 20th, the 19th anniversary of the Columbine shooting.
Even though schools themselves are not officially endorsing the demonstrations, parents and even principals are encouraged by the student activism.
I thought that was a wonderful way to honor their memory and to honor the survivors who are taking leadership in talking about gun violence. I think it would be good for our children to see that we care.
That's one of the things I really appreciate about our kids today, is that they're willing to have these conversations with adults, and it's my job to give them opportunities to have their voice heard.
At least half a dozen other schools statewide have students coordinating efforts for walkouts over the next 2 months.
President Donald Trump held a listening session with students, teachers, and parents at the White House to discuss efforts to ensure safety at schools. Attendees included members of the Parkland community as well as people affected by Columbine and Sandy Hook. Trump announced he has directed the Department of Justice to move forward and ban bump stocks, such as those used in the Las Vegas shooting. And on Twitter, Trump said they must focus on strengthening background checks. And at today's gathering, Trump said school safety was a top priority. But some in attendance found it hard to hold back emotions in talking about their losses.
My daughter has no voice. She was murdered last week and she was taken from us. Shot 9 times on the 3rd floor. We, as a country, failed our children.
I don't understand why I could still go in a store and buy a weapon of war. An AR. I was reading today that a person 20 years old walked into a store and bought an AR-15 in 5 minutes with an expired ID. How is it that easy?
It's been going on too long, too many instances, and we're going to get it done.
Arizona Congressman Ruben Gallego is defending his tweet over the weekend, slamming President Trump for politicizing the Florida school shooting. Gallego used a tweet to call Trump a, quote, psychopath after Trump suggested that the FBI missed red flags about the gunman because of the ongoing Russia probe. Gallego defended his comments to CNN today.
I think it is constructive in that sense that we're not dealing with a normal president. If any president in the past would have tweeted this out while there were still young men and women being buried in a mass shooting, the press, politicians in general would have started questioning, you know, the sanity of this president or whether he even if he's fit for office.
Here in Arizona, any bills dealing with gun regulations at the state capitol are now dead. Chairman of the Judiciary and Public Safety Committee, Republican Eddie Farnsworth, never put the bills on the agenda. But as Cronkite News reporter Cade Garner shows us, efforts to force a discussion failed.
Democratic lawmakers tried to delay the Committee of the Whole to discuss HB 2023, a bill to ban bump stocks. But Republicans voted to go ahead, skipping any discussion. Some, though, did feel the need to explain their vote.
This is not about the Second Amendment. This is not about a weapon. This is not about a gun. This is about an accessory to a gun that allows a weapon to fire hundreds of rounds a minute.
We have so cheapened life in this nation with video games of make-believe that tell our children it's okay to behave that way. Well, quite frankly, it's not okay. It's not okay for a kid to pick up a self-defense weapon and use it against other people.
The problem is guns. The problem are members on this floor standing up saying that we shouldn't take away, I think the term was a self-defense weapon. An AR-15 is not a weapon of self-defense. An AR-15 is a device used to slaughter.
I gotta be honest, I'm confused because we're talking about violence in video games. We're talking about what happened last week in Florida, which is just an awful, awful thing. And the bump stock has nothing to do with it. And with that, I vote no.
Today, we caught up with Representative Randall Freese, who sponsored the bill. He expressed disappointment in the lack of discussion.
When you're not doing something in a very public way, people that live here in Arizona think that we're doing nothing. And we are doing close to nothing, to tell you the truth, and we could be doing so much more if we just allow a discussion on these issues.
Freese says he won't give up, and we'll take a look at what may have a chance to pass next session. In the Broadcast Center, Cade Garner, Cronkite News.
Arizona is not the only deadlocked legislature. Congress was unable to pass immigration reform legislation last week. Now, with less than 2 weeks before the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program expires, DACA recipients are in limbo again, as Cronkite News reporter Austin Bundy reports from our Washington bureau.
Young immigrants have been living with uncertainty since September, when President Donald Trump said he would end DACA on March 5th. Now it seems that uncertainty has been extended indefinitely, leaving dreamers like Juan Escalante fearful for their immediate future.
They will also be dealt with the inability to actually drive a vehicle with a driver's license, which means that all across this country, they could be subjected to random stops, checkpoints, or beyond.
After Congress failed to pass immigration reform last week, House Speaker Paul Ryan pointed to the end of March when a deal could be attached to another budget bill. R.J. Howman, Government Relations Director of the Federation for American Immigration Reform, says that's not the way to go.
You know, you don't make fundamental changes to the immigration system via must-pass legislation. You don't ram it through, you debate it openly and fairly in front of the American people.
Arizona Senator Jeff Flake said he will introduce a measure to extend DACA protections for 3 years while giving the White House $7.6 billion for its border security proposal over 3 years. But Howman thinks the so-called 3-for-3 deal is a non-starter too.
Well, no, it's not a fair deal, and it falls woefully short of the framework the administration put out and frankly what they ran on.
But Dreamers think it would unfairly put them in a, quote, temporary bubble while the administration gets the heightened border security it's always demanded.
And I just don't think that any sensible person will look at a balance where those two objects are balanced on and say, wow, this is a fair and balanced deal, because it isn't.
Lori Kaplan, president and CEO of the Latin American Youth Center in Washington, said dreamers shouldn't be afraid, that there are shelters like hers all across the country that will help them.
While March 5th is a big day, March 6th will come and young people will continue to go to school and they'll continue to go to college.
In Washington, Austin Bundy, Cronkite News.
Cronkite News has extensive coverage on the DACA debate at cronkitenews.azpbs.org. Count on us to continue reporting on all sides of the discussion as the DACA deadline approaches.
Steve Montenegro is being accused of trading flirtatious text messages with a state Senate staffer. He was still a state senator when this occurred. However, this happened just days before he decided to run for Congress. Montenegro responded in a press release claiming the matter as false tabloid trash. He plans to ignore the situation while acknowledging his family, stating, "I am blessed with an amazing wife and marriage. The media wants to drag us down with just a week to go, but we are not going to dignify this false tabloid trash with any further response." And former state senator Debbie Lesko is under fire for transferring $50,000 from her old state Senate campaign fund to an independent group backing her congressional election bid. Lesko's campaign calls her cash transfer legal. The activist group Puente went to the Phoenix City Council today to keep taxpayer money from funding any future visits from President Trump. You'll remember police used tear gas and pepper spray to stop conflict that erupted outside the Trump rally back in August. Puente also expressed continuing concerns over police activity that night. Arizona's robotic industry is growing here in the Valley.
Coming up on Cronkite News, how this club plans to expand this technological industry even more.
Plus, the city of Phoenix is working to win a nationwide mayor's challenge and be the best heat-ready city in the nation.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles. In Cleveland. In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
This fall,
I'm so excited! What?
from the inspiring to the amazing.
You're in the presence of history.
The compelling.
He said, "Welcome home." It was just a powerful moment.
To the astounding.
I promised myself I wouldn't cry.
And from the breathtaking.
This is real.
A journey to Mars.
To the electrifying.
We're going to change the world.
All this and more. All this fall.
Oh my God!
The robotics industry of the Silicon Desert is fast-paced and cutthroat at times, but reporter Jake Epley visited a club that is showing the fun side of robotics by destroying them as well.
This is the world of BattleBots, pitting two remote control machines against each other with the intent of destruction.
It's a huge adrenaline rush.
15-year-old Nick Doberkoff is a member of Arizona Robotics Combat, a club founded in late 2016 with the goal of building a following for combat robotics in the Phoenix area.
You have these two really powerful robots and they're going to destroy each other. Anything could happen. There's so many variables with the robots that you just never know what's going to happen.
Founder David Small says members come to the club with all different skill levels.
People who have functioning robots, people who are interested, people who are just dipping their toes in, or people who want to try and learn more.
The club is gaining interest at the perfect time as well. Wen-Lung Zheng, an assistant professor of Arizona State University's engineering program, says that the robotics industry in Arizona is growing, with driverless cars and a bill to allow delivery robots.
I do see that we have the potential of become the next big thing.
The club is currently raising money to build an arena through GoFundMe.com. Small hopes that having their own arena will help more members prepare for competitions around the country.
More interest in the sport in general, in just our local area. It's what we can do to help the sport grow.
Arizona Robotic Combat hope to have the arena finished in March when they will host their first BattleBots competition.
You might not be a champion right off the bat, but we're a group that's willing to teach and learn and bring in beginners.
Teaching a love for the growing robotics field. In Phoenix, Jake Epley, Cronkite News.
If you want to donate, we'll have more information and a link to their GoFundMe page on cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
The U.S. Mayor Challenge is a nationwide competition that encourages city leaders to uncover inventive ideas that focus on the toughest problems that cities face. Phoenix is in the final round and is tackling urban heat. Similar to other programs developed for storms, Phoenix will be creating the first of its kind heat-ready program. It will enable local governments to holistically manage how they identify, prepare, mitigate, track, and respond to the dangers of urban heat. Phoenix is one of the 35 cities that's part of the 6-month testing. The champion cities will conduct public prototypes of their ideas with grant funding up to $100,000 per city. In a statement, Phoenix Mayor Greg Stanton wrote, "As cities across the country grapple with the challenges of a changing climate, too many are responding with crisis-driven policies. No city is better positioned to take the lead and prepare for climbing temperatures than Phoenix." But heat isn't the biggest problem right now. Instead, it's a relatively dry winter that's causing concern.
Coming up on Cronkite News, we talk to the experts about the impact of the snow drought in the high country.
High thin clouds have moved back into the state, and it's a cool 57 degrees out there. Stay tuned to see if this cool air will stick around.
I'm Ted Simons, host and managing editor of Arizona Horizon. Join us each weekday at 5:30 and 10 as we bring you the top newsmakers who impact the state. We cover the stories in depth that shape and affect our local communities, and we take the time to ensure that all voices are equally heard. For more than 30 years, Arizona Horizon has been your voice and your source for what matters most, right here on Arizona PBS.
By the year 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. Before Professor Halden, I had an insane amount of passion, but I almost felt helpless because I didn't know how to use it. Professor Halden gave me a chance to make a difference. Being at a place like ASU allows you to take these big leaps. Ultimately, the biggest problems in the world cannot be solved alone.
Flagstaff is currently seeing a break between two major snowfalls this week, but the city is still labeled as in a severe drought by the National Integrated Drought Information System. At this point in the season, Flagstaff typically sees about 66 inches of snowpack. This year, state climatologists say there is only a little over 17 inches, and the current storms won't have much impact. This is because storms have been sporadic instead of continual, so the snowpack does not have a chance to build up and create snowmelt. Climatologist Nancy Sellover says snowpack is the most important element in improving the drought situation.
That's when we start getting snowmelt, and it runs off into the reservoirs and it runs off into the aquifers, so it fills the aquifers and stuff. So people who are pumping groundwater, it gets replenished when we have the winter snowpack melting.
Out of the last 6 winters in Flagstaff, last year saw the most rain and snow, while so far this winter is the driest.
So spring training starts this Friday, and I was at practice today, and let me tell you, it was freezing. I had to put a jacket on, and I was still shaking. Nicole Randock is now tracking our weather. Nicole, how long is this cold going to last?
That's right, Troy. Well, you'll definitely want to keep those jackets handy today, as the temperatures will remain on the chilly side. And the storm system that moved through our state on Monday has vacated our state and it has moved east, bringing with it havoc across the nation, as it's been bringing a lot of rain and snow and a lot of flooding all the way from Texas up to Illinois. But right here in the valley, our temperatures are in the mid-50s, which is way lower than the temperatures that you can see the East Coast experience today. New York, 74 degrees today, whereas here in Phoenix, we've been in the mid-50s. And our temperatures across the state have been 10 to 15 degrees below average this time of year. Flagstaff and the Grand Canyon are both in the low 30s, Page 39 degrees, and down south, Tucson 59 degrees, Show Low and along the rim 39 degrees today. And currently it is 57 degrees right here in the valley, high thin clouds, and our winds are remaining calm, coming from the northwest at 6 miles per hour. And I've got some great news for you skiers and snowboarders out there. This picture coming in from Snow Bowl today, where they received 6 inches of fresh powder, and Sunrise Ski Resort received 18 inches of fresh powder. So if you get a chance, make a trip up north this weekend to see that fresh powder. And if you were thinking about getting your car washed this weekend, you may want to hold off, because come Friday, we're tracking a 20% chance of rain and gusty winds coming with a high of 54 degrees. But come the weekend, we're looking at sunny, clear skies, and our highs will be in the 60s. And then we're tracking another chance of rain starting on Tuesday. Reporting for Cronkite Weather, I'm Nicole Randock.
Thank you, Nicole. Mishit golf balls may be more valuable than you think.
Coming up on Cronkite News, how the lost golf balls are being put to use.
Cronkite News weeknights at 5 on Arizona PBS.
Fridays, it's at Cronkite News, your social sharing connection where you choose the news. Facebook likes and shares, tweets, retweets, and favorites. YouTube views and subscriptions. We're watching you watch us. From our digital home at cronkitenews.azpbs.org to your television, web browser, or mobile device. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Then join us for at Cronkite News, our weekly refresh, each Friday at 5 on Arizona PBS.
Millions of golf balls are lost on the course each year, but that isn't always the end of this story.
Reporter Grayson Choi dives into the process of retrieving and recycling these missing golf balls.
Lee Ivanko's Valley-based companies help turn the misfortune of some golfers into an opportunity for others.
We've been in this business now for 30 years. We love the business and we love being in the Valley. We've expanded into 20 other states. We pull in about 10 million balls a year.
Ivanko owns Desert Golf, which collects lost golf balls, and Sunshine Golf, which sorts and sells those balls. It is estimated by the Danish Golf Union that approximately 300 million golf balls in the United States are lost each year. To keep lakes clean and disturbances at a minimum, Ivanko hires divers like John Waynon to retrieve balls hit into lakes. Waynon said he often spends several hours searching for balls underwater, the first step towards recycling them for extended use.
I collect the
the golf balls into a mesh bag that I have strapped to me through a PVC tee. And so basically you just kind of go through the mud, waving your hands around, and you go by feel a lot of times.
To put in perspective how many golf balls are found, divers can actually find 200 to 300 golf balls in a single lake.
We do the lake ball retrieval. Not every ball is a usable ball.
After divers collect the balls, they are transferred to a processing plant where they are sorted, graded, and processed for wholesale purchase globally. With reports suggesting that 100 million golf balls are recovered annually, businesses like Sunshine Golf and Desert Golf are changing the life expectancy of all those mishit golf balls. In Mesa, Grayson Choi, Cronkite News.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
On the next Arizona Horizon, why the legislature is moving so fast to delicense and deregulate various professions. And former NATO Ambassador Kurt Volker talks foreign affairs, including Russian interference in last year's election.
I'm Judy Woodruff on the next NewsHour, analyzing the real power of North Korea's nuclear weapons. That's Wednesday on the PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.